In today's video, I'm going to be removing the driver's seat, stripping it down and replacing a missing seatbelt guide trim. The seatbelt guide is meant to look like this, but on the driver's side, it's like this. It's missing. When I bought this car, it was just lying there loose in the door pocket here. So I ordered a new one. Now, unfortunately, in order to replace this, the whole seat has to come out and we need to strip down this backrest. I'm working with the roof down because it's so much easier to get the seat out when the roof isn't in the way. The weather is looking a little kinder today. With the seat right back, I can access these front mounting nuts. They're 30mm spanner size. Now move the seat forward to get to the rear mountings. Not the healthiest sounding motor, is it? And here they are. The seat belt here is attached to the seat frame by this 16mm spanner size bolt, and it's best to undo this bolt while the actual seat is still anchored to the floor because you get better leverage. When it does come loose, you will notice that the bolt is held in place with this clip here. So you can't really refit that the wrong way, but just don't get the seatbelt tangled. The rear fixings are bolts as opposed to nuts at the front, and these bolts are 16mm socket size. To create additional clearance, I need to raise this seat because I have it at the lowest setting. There is some wiring to disconnect under here, but it'll be easier to demonstrate once it's done and the seat is out. These are the wires that need to be disconnected. These are likely going to be to do with seat motors, looking at the gauge of the wiring, and that is likely the seatbelt pretensioner. Best to not put the ignition on at this point or it will trigger a fault code. I'm going to be taking this seat into the garage where I can work on this. As the sky is ever changing, and on the basis that I can't really switch the ignition on to operate the power roof with the seatbelt pretensioner disconnected, I'm just going to loosen this, which will enable me to raise the roof manually if I need to in a hurry, if the weather takes a turn for the worst. I can't put the car in the garage because the seat's in there, and I've only got a miserly single garage, which is always upsetting. Before I get underway stripping down this seat, I just want to look at this. The difference in colour between the exposed area of leather and the area that was underneath the trim really does go to show how grubby that leather is, unless it's wear. So before I actually fit this and strip this down, I am just going to clean this area because it will be very difficult to kind of get right up to the edge once that trim's fitted. I'm going to use this leather care kit. This actually came with a Chesterfield sofa that I had handmade just before I bought my current house. Unfortunately, this is all that remains because the sofa was so uncomfortable, could never relax on it, despite it looking amazing and costing a fortune, so it had to go. But this should certainly be good for cleaning the leather on this seat. So this comes with a cleaner and a protection cream. I'm going to use this cleaner to start with. Now, as I said at the start, this might be wear because wear can sometimes create the illusion of staining, but then it might not, so it's worth just giving this a go. Could also be sun damage to an extent. This doesn't seem to be too dirty, and I'm not entirely sure it's made much of a difference, but it was worth a try, wasn't it? Before I get underway with this, I just want to explain what the actual plan is. So I want to remove this seat fabric for the backrest only, separate it from the foam inside, and remove it so I can then fit the new trim. There are some appalling bodges that I've seen online where people have taken a Stanley knife to it and cut down here and really not done it right, used glue and stuff. I want to do this properly so we can make this a sensible and easy thing to do for anybody that wants to do it themselves. First of all, I want to remove this black hard plastic cover. It's held in place with a couple of clips down here that will come out quite easily if you give it a tug. There are a couple of clips inside here that it kind of slides into. There we go. I know it looks like I was humping it, but that wasn't the idea. Okay, that's interesting. We've got some sort of sensor here. Looks like an occupancy sensor of some description. So just push the sensors through. Hopefully I can retrieve those from inside the seat, because they've gone if not. This potentially looks like a sensitive bit of kit, so I'm going to be careful with it, but I also want to cut this off here and free it off, and then I can put it down underneath. I'm going to cut the wire itself, that would be annoying. It's quite heavy for what it is. So we've got a little zipper thing here, which we can undo and release these from here. And this piece here should be able to be fed forwards and underneath. And then we can return to that in a minute from the other side. Be especially careful with this. Let's tuck that under there for the minute. And just in there are those two pins that we drove out for this. Put those to one side. So we release the trim over the side bolsters, and we're now going to encounter our first set of hog rings under here. Let's talk for a minute about hog rings. Hog rings, before they are used, come in a strip like this, and you can break one off. And then these are hog ring pliers, specially designed with cutouts in there like that. You place the hog ring in there and then you crimp it closed like this. Hog rings secure the outer covering to metal bars that pass through the foam behind, and they keep everything taut. So you can see under here, there, and I'm going to just open these up with some pliers and remove the three. There's one there too, and there's one there. So I'm going to release these three hog rings, and then you'll see we then work upwards to the next line of them. And here is the first one. So they're sacrificial, we use new ones. When you twist and deform them, you want to be a bit careful not to tear the metal bar out of the foam. There is of course the other option of just cutting them. And then we move up to the next section and you'll find another row of hog rings. Remove the old bits of hog ring. This vehicle has heated seats. I say it has, I think had in the past tense might be a bit more appropriate. You can see here where this wire has burnt out. Right there, look at that. It's no longer connected. Left a burn mark there too. That could have done more damage. So if I was really hung up about repairing that, I could have fitted a new heating mat in here right now. But I'm not bothered, because it's a summer car anyway. I've just cut out the two little sections there where it burnt out, just so that they're definitely well separated. So we move on to the next line of hog rings. 1, 2, and 3. And remove all the bits. So I think you get the general idea. And guess what we've got up the top here? No prizes for getting. Three more hog rings. And just like that, we have the seat cover off. Really not that difficult. Just remove the remnants of the last three. And that is one seat stripped down. As I said, you've got these metal bars that go through here. You can pull them through. I've seen it done. If you're not gentle enough. You don't want to do that because the tautness of the seat covering and the fitting of it depends on it being pulled in tight against these. If these break away, then it defeats the object of them being there. Here we have the seat backrest cover hanging over the tripod here. I'm going to transfer this over to the bench. Before I do that, I'm just going to show you the parts. So here it is. Here's the part number. Got this from Vine's BMW at Gatwick. Great people there in the parts department, always very helpful, especially considering the age of the car and some of the obscure parts that I order. They're always very patient and very determined to find what I need. Let's have a look in here and see what we get. So it's in two pieces. The bit you see on the outside of the leather, the bit on the inside, and these two little star clip type things that we push over these pegs using like a socket or something of the right diameter. And looking at the old one here, it seems that they are just broken off, kind of about here. I've also seen these broken off like across here as well. I don't want to damage this lovely leather seat cover. It's probably very hard to get one of those now. So let's clear some space, put some cloth down to protect it, and then we can set about fitting this before then refitting the seat cover. It's fairly easy to see the correct way around that this would be fitted. You can see the markings in the leather where it used to be. I've inverted this seat cover. The trim is fitted from the underside with these two pegs protruding. I can now fit the backing plate, and then using a socket that is the perfect size for this, I can drive this over the peg with a hammer, carefully. That can go a little bit further, but I'm using my overalls under here to protect it. Still too loose. That's now quite stiff. So let's turn our attention to this one. And with that neatly fitted, it's time to put this seat cover back onto the seat. Start this middle one. Let's just pop that through the original hole where the original hog ring was. Hook that around the bar at the back and close that one up. Yes, done. That's the first one. Second one is in. And now we take care of the next row, just hooking them round and crimping them shut. What I also tend to do is to turn that bit there where you've got the sharp edges, the overlap, I turn that around so it's at the back and in the foam. So there's just less chance of it being felt through the seat, although I don't think I've ever known it to be anyway. I just prefer it that way. Once we get this final row of hog rings in, we can then set about properly refitting this cover and pulling it in all the right places so it's well fitted. All the hog rings are now in. Now feed this back through. I'm rolling that so that we don't scuff the leather with the plastic. Let's flip that around. This is inverted and clipped into here. Same with this, so it comes around and then it goes around yet again. So it goes in that way, so it's nice and taut. Refit this. Let's go and get the pegs. Very small hammer. Cable tie, so we return it as we found it. Time to refit this. Bearing in mind that these two hooks here go over here. Make sure everything at the bottom here is tucked in neatly. And refit these two clips. And that is done. Let's just spin it around and just check out the tension of the leather. And I'm very pleased to say that I'm happy with that, very happy with that. I don't think you'd know I'd been there. I'm just going to hoover out some of the crumbs and bits, and there's a piece of hog ring there, just to make that good. I'm just going to use some of this leather cleaner on it, just to treat it to this while it's out. There's no real reason not to. The leather cleaner needs to dry, but I have to say I am extremely happy with this seat. I really enjoy upholstery work. As well as finding the extortionate sum of 5p, this also presents a great opportunity to clean this carpet properly without the seat there, and to also lift the carpet and just check for any corrosion or anything else that I need to worry about, like water ingress. I have already done the same on the other side when I removed that seat to sort out some wiring issues. Video will be in the description below if you want to have a look. It's interesting to note that this has already been cut. This flap allows access to the fuel tank, sender unit and fuel pump. Initially that is kind of fixed to the carpet. There are some little places that you can cut if you need to gain access. Well, somebody clearly has had to do that. I wonder why. But I guess after all these years, there are many reasons why somebody needed to get in there. I do have a bit of a fuel smell from this car, and I wouldn't be surprised if I've got a leaky seal where the tank sender unit fits to the tank. Either that, or it could be the plastic pipes on the actual fuel pump housing that have cracked, because it's quite common apparently. I'm naturally quite curious, so I just wanted to lift this carpet just to see if there's any evidence of any corrosion in here. And I mean, this inner sill looks okay. To be fair, I think they go further back than you can see from the inside of the car anyway, when they do rust. I think it's more likely back under here somewhere. One day I'll get these off and find out what's going on under there. It seems a pretty clean example. Little bit of moisture down there in the foam. I think that happens with convertibles, but this is never going to get wet again anyway. Well, Not unless it's out on the driveway and it rains while I'm working on it. But I'm not going to intentionally take this out in the rain. I'm not going to delve any deeper there today. I'm going to put this back. That is now very clean. I could become carried away with this and go on forever. Sometimes I just have to know when to stop. Let's get it back in the car. But before we do, there are some nasty looking bits here. Dirty, fluffy, grimy bits of the frame. I'm just going to give this a quick wipe. Make that look a bit nicer. It's a bit hairy and nasty there. Don't like other people's hair. Well, it's fine if it's just on their head, but I don't want it all over my car. All clean, ready to go back. Reconnect these wires. All reconnected. Hard to see, I know. Seats relocated on the front studs. I felt it click into place. So we can get these rear bolts in. Uncover the front fixings. And by my research, this is torqued up to 47 Newton meters. Obviously do your own research to make sure you're happy with whatever setting you use. And the bit I've been waiting for, the most satisfying bit of all. There we go. We have a working seatbelt guide. Done properly. I am so pleased with that. I can just tighten this up and reinstate the electrics to the hood. Refit the clip there, so the trim is nice and secure. Well, that turned out to be a really enjoyable job and quite satisfying. Quite a few years ago now, when I worked for a VW and Audi dealer, I always used to get allocated seat and trim work by the workshop controller. I used to take the seats into the tea room, like a mess room, get the seat up on the table and work there, because it was the only clean place in the building where I could get it done. And it'd probably breach every health and safety rule in the book these days, but back then, around the millennium time, it wasn't such an issue. Coming soon, I'm going to be removing this door card. There's meant to be a bezel round here, and I've tried refitting it, but there doesn't seem to be enough clearance at the top compared to the bottom. So either the door card isn't fitted in the correct place, or it needs to come off and this needs to be relocated. Either way, that door card's going to come off. I've got the clips and the stuff ready to go. I have got, I think it's a Phoebe Bilstein bezel that I bought. It's about £8. But I do want the genuine one, which is on order from the BMW dealer. And it's only a couple of quid from them, which is quite strange. So I'll get the genuine one fitted eventually, because there currently isn't a release date from Germany. So that's it for this one. I look forward to seeing you again in another video very soon.